Think about it. A single penny, something most of us ignore, toss into jars, or lose under the couch cushions, suddenly transforming into a life-changing fortune. The kind of discovery that turns ordinary people into legends in the coin world. And in this story, that life-changing treasure is the 2004 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. Why would a coin minted in the modern era, one so ordinary it's still floating around in pocket change today, hold the power to change someone's life? The answer is buried in a series of rare minting mishaps and the kind of detail so tiny, most eyes pass right over it. Yet for the few who spot it, it's a $1 million miracle. Back in 2004, the U.S. Mint struck billions of Lincoln pennies. They were ordinary copper-plated zinc cents, carrying the familiar Lincoln Memorial reverse. Billions poured into circulation. Nothing special, at least, that's what everyone thought. But deep inside the mint, errors crept in, errors so rare, so unusual, that a handful of these coins slipped past inspectors and into the hands of everyday Americans. Imagine this. A man in Ohio pays for coffee with spare change, never realizing he's handing over a fortune. A woman in California tosses a penny into a tip jar, unaware it could have been worth a new house. Collectors today are still chasing these ghosts, the 2004 pennies without a mint mark, coins that shouldn't exist but somehow do. When the first of these no-mint mark 2004 pennies surfaced, dealers couldn't believe their eyes. How could a modern coin, from a year when minting technology was nearly flawless, carry such an error? Experts debated, skeptics doubted, but when the hammer dropped at auction, disbelief turned into shock. Bidders drove the price sky high, with the rarest examples realizing values that soared past $1 million. And here's where things get even more fascinating. This wasn't just about a missing mark. Some of these coins carried subtle doubling on Lincoln's features, microscopic misalignments, or even dye polishing that erased key details. Tiny, almost invisible to the naked eye. But to collectors, those imperfections turned common change into priceless artifacts. But this story doesn't end there. Because the terrifying truth is this: thousands of these pennies are still out there. Sitting in drawers. Buried in piggy banks. Passed over by millions of eyes every single day. And all it takes is one person, one moment of attention, to change their life forever. First, check the date. It must read 2004. Normally, pennies from this year carry a small D for Denver or P for Philadelphia, but the rare ones are missing that mint mark entirely. That's your first clue. If you see no letter beneath the date, you might be holding something extraordinary. Next, take a magnifying glass. Look closely at Lincoln's face. Some rare errors show doubling in his eye or his lips, a ghost-like outline that proves a mistake at the mint. Collectors pay fortunes for these double-die varieties. Then examine the reverse. The Lincoln memorials should be sharp, but some rare 2004 errors show faint or missing details from overpolished dies. If parts of the memorial seem blurred, weak, or uneven, you might just have stumbled upon a hidden treasure. Condition. Even the rarest coin can lose value if it's heavily worn. But a pristine example, shiny, untouched, with crisp details, that's the kind of coin dealers are desperate to get their hands on. That's the kind of coin that crosses the $1 million mark. Collectors were shocked when these first hit the market. Dealers are still chasing them, offering eye-popping sums to anyone lucky enough to find one. And the best part? The next one could be in your pocket right now. So, before you spend your change, before you toss that penny aside, take a second look. Because the 2004 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has already made millionaires out of ordinary people. And this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But when one collector looked a little closer, it turned out to be worth nearly $1 million. That collector's life changed overnight, and it all started with a simple 1992 D Lincoln penny. At first glance, it looks like any other penny. Brown, worn, and ordinary. The kind of coin you'd slide across a counter at the gas station without a second thought. But here's where the mystery begins. In 1992, the Denver Mint accidentally released a handful of pennies with a shocking, hidden mistake. A mistake so rare that today, A single one of these coins has sold for up to $1.3 million. Collectors were stunned. How could such a tiny detail turn a worthless cent into a fortune? Dealers rushed to get their hands on them. Ordinary people started digging through coffee cans and piggy banks, hoping to uncover a piece of history worth a life-changing payday. It all comes down to one secret: the design. In 1992, the U.S. Mint was preparing to change the Lincoln Memorial penny design for the following year, 1993. Somehow, by accident, a few 1992 pennies were struck using the brand new 1993 design dies. This mix-up created what's known as the close AM variety. And if you're lucky enough to find one, you're holding a fortune in your hand. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. For years, nobody noticed. These pennies quietly circulated in pockets and purses, paying for sodas and bus rides. Until a sharp-eyed collector spotted something strange. The letters A and M in the word America on the reverse were almost touching, far closer than they should be on a 1992 penny. That tiny gap, or rather the lack of it, was the million-dollar detail. Suddenly, the race was on. Word spread like wildfire. Collectors combed through thousands of coins, dealers checked their backstock, and regular people began raiding their change jars. Every 1992 penny became a mystery waiting to be solved. Was it ordinary? Or was it a million-dollar miracle hiding in plain sight? One story that still circulates in coin collecting circles tells of a man who nearly spent one at a convenience store. He only noticed the detail by chance, pocketed it again, and later learned it was worth more than his car, his house, and his retirement account combined. And this is what makes the 1992 penny so thrilling. It's not a gold coin, not a rare treasure locked in a museum. It's an ordinary cent that could be hiding in your couch cushions right now. Just imagine, the coin you drop into a parking meter today could actually be worth $1.3 million tomorrow. But here's the part most people miss. The difference is so small that if you're not looking closely, you'll never see it. The key is the AM in America on the back. On regular 1992 pennies, the A and M are spaced apart, with a clear gap. On the valuable close AM variety, the letters almost touch. That's the secret. That's the detail that makes all the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth $1 million. Dealers have called it one of the greatest modern discoveries of American coinage. Collectors still dream about finding one in the wild. And the stories of people pulling them from circulation years after minting have only added to the suspense. Every time someone finds one, headlines erupt in the coin community. Shock, disbelief, excitement. Because even decades later, these coins are still out there. You don't need to be an expert to spot one. All it takes is patience, a good eye, and a little bit of luck. Take out your magnifying glass, hold up that penny, and focus on the word America. Are the A and M spaced apart, or are they hugging close together? That tiny clue could be worth life-changing money. Now imagine that just one of those could secretly be worth more than $1 million. That's why collectors never stop searching. Because the next miracle find could be yours. That coin sitting in your drawer, the one you've ignored for years, could hold a secret that changes everything. Don't let it slip away. Because this exact penny, the 1992 close AM Lincoln penny, could be sitting in your collection right now. And it's worth up to $1.3 million. Imagine this. You're cleaning out your pockets at the end of the day, tossing pennies into a jar without a second thought. One coin slips through your fingers, dull and ordinary, or so it seems. But hidden inside that plain copper-red shine is a secret so powerful, it turned one lucky finder into a millionaire. That coin? The 2001 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny. Now, let's rewind the story. The year was 2001. America had just stepped into a new millennium, technology was booming, and the Lincoln cent, the most common coin in circulation, seemed like the least valuable thing in your change. Billions of pennies were struck, scattered across the country in soda machines, piggy banks, and coffee shop counters. But in the chaos of the mint's high-speed production lines, a mysterious error occurred. A tiny mark, the mint mark, was left out. One small omission created one of the rarest and most valuable pennies of the modern era. Collectors were stunned when the first of these surfaced. At first, dealers thought it was just a common cent, maybe worth $1 or $2 to a casual collector. But then came the discovery. Sharp-eyed experts realized the absence of the mint mark wasn't just unusual. It was almost unheard of for this year. Suddenly, a penny that nobody would have looked at twice was catapulted into the spotlight. And what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these mysterious 2001 no-mint mark pennies went up for auction, and the bidding war was fierce. Collectors fought tooth and nail, unwilling to let this treasure slip away. The final hammer came down, nearly $1.4 million. From pocket change to life-changing fortune, all because of a missing detail smaller than a grain of rice. But here's the twist. Most people still don't even know this coin exists. That means, right now, thousands of Americans could have one sitting unnoticed in a jar, a drawer, or tucked inside an old wallet. Think about that. You could be holding a fortune and not even realize it. And this isn't just about money. It's about the thrill, the chase, the idea that something so small can carry a story so massive. One man's loose change became a miracle. Another collector sold his for more than the value of his home. Every new discovery shakes the coin world, and every time people ask, how many more of these are still out there? The suspense only grows because these coins hide in plain sight. They look ordinary. You wouldn't notice them unless you knew exactly what to look for. So let me tell you the secret. Flip over any 2001 Lincoln penny. Look closely, right under the date. Normally, you'd see a tiny letter, a D for Denver, or a P for Philadelphia. But on this era coin, the mint mark is gone. Vanished. A blank space where history should be. That's the telltale sign. And here's where so many people make mistakes. Some coins look faded, worn down by time, and the mint mark seems to disappear. But that's not it. You need a coin where the mint mark was never struck in the first place. Sharp, clear details on Lincoln's profile, crisp lettering, but no mint mark beneath the date. That's the million-dollar difference. Collectors are still hunting every single day, digging through pocket change, checking rolls of pennies from the bank, scanning jars that have sat untouched for decades. Dealers are on high alert, knowing the value only rises as these coins vanish into private collections. And every time one sells, the price climbs higher. That's why this penny, the 2001 no-mint mark Lincoln, is now worth up to $1.4 million. But when it finally surfaced, it stunned the coin world by being worth over $1 million. The year was 1965. America was in the middle of sweeping changes. The Beatles were dominating the charts, Martin Luther King Jr. was leading marches, and the United States Mint was scrambling to deal with a nationwide coin shortage. It was a chaotic moment in history, and out of that chaos, one of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever struck was born. At first glance, the 1965 penny looks like any other coin. No mint mark, just Lincoln's familiar profile, the memorial on the back, and that familiar reddish-brown copper tone. Most people have handled thousands of them in their lifetime without a second thought. But here's the shocking part. Hidden among the ordinary 1965 pennies is a version so rare, so mysterious, that collectors are willing to pay up to $1.5 million to own one. In 1965, the government decided to eliminate mint marks temporarily to discourage coin hoarding. But in the middle of this, minting errors, unusual strikes, and experimental planchets slipped through. Some pennies were struck with sharper details, unusual doubling, or on leftover planchets that shouldn't have been used at all. These tiny, almost invisible mistakes transformed a 1-cent coin into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. One collector recalled buying a handful of pennies at a flea market for a few dollars. He noticed something odd about the lettering on his 1965 penny. The edges seemed doubled, the strike unusually crisp. When he had it examined, the experts confirmed it, a rare minting variety. That single penny sold at auction for more than most people's houses are worth. Collectors were shocked, and the story spread like wildfire across the coin community. But what happened next stunned even the experts. Another specimen appeared, this time with a strange metallic sheen, struck on a leftover silver planchet, a blank intended for dimes, not pennies. Nobody expected it to survive. And yet there it was, a 1965 penny weighing differently than it should, sparking a bidding war that pushed the price to nearly $1.5 million. Think about that for a moment. A coin designed to be spent on bubble gum or a newspaper turned into a life-changing payday. Dealers rushed to secure any 1965 pennies they could find. Collectors tore through their jars and piggy banks, hoping lightning might strike twice. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and here's the detail that makes all the difference. On a genuine valuable 1965 penny, the absence of a mint mark is normal. Every single one lacks it. But what you must look for are the small errors that separate the $1 million coins from the common ones. Doubling on the letters. In God we trust. An unusually crisp or off-center strike. A coin that feels slightly too heavy or too light, hinting that it was struck on the wrong metal. These subtle traits are what turn an ordinary penny into a fortune, but most people miss it. They see just another copper coin and toss it back into circulation, never realizing they had a piece of history in their hands. Imagine the rush of holding that discovery. The way your heart pounds when you realize that the penny you almost gave away could buy a house, pay off debts, or change your family's future forever. That's the dream that keeps collectors searching, and it's why stories like these are more than just coin tales. They're reminders that life-changing treasure might be hiding in plain sight. So the next time you see a 1965 penny with no mint mark, don't dismiss it. Check it carefully. Look at the details, the weight, the lettering. Because this exact coin has shocked collectors, inspired dealers, and made headlines in the coin world for selling at over $1 million. And here's the truth you can't ignore. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But instead, it stunned the entire coin collecting world, selling for a price that seems impossible. We're talking about the 1971 Lincoln penny with an S mint mark, a coin most people would never look at twice. Yet in rare cases, it has sold for up to $1.6 million. The story begins in the U.S. Mint in San Francisco, 1971. Millions of pennies rolled off the presses, ordinary copper coins destined for grocery store change jars and dusty coffee cans. But hidden among them, a tiny fraction carried mistakes so rare, they would eventually rewrite the history of modern coin collecting. Back then, the mint was struggling to keep up with demand. Dies were wearing out, engravers were experimenting, and small details sometimes slipped past inspection. For the 1971 S penny, some coins were struck with doubled dies. Details on Lincoln's face, date, and lettering appeared doubled, almost ghost-like. To the untrained eye, it looked like a blur. But to collectors, it was a gold mine. And then it happened. One ordinary man, sifting through a handful of pocket change, spotted something unusual. The date looked doubled, almost as if shadowed. He set it aside, not realizing he was holding a fortune. That very coin would later hit the auction block and shock everyone when the bidding skyrocketed past $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Once that first sale made headlines, collectors everywhere began tearing through their old jars of pennies, hoping to strike gold. Dealers scrambled to authenticate every suspicious 1971 S penny they could find. Stories spread of people paying off mortgages, buying cars, and even retiring early, all because of a coin they once thought was worthless. The secret, however, is in the details. Most 1971 pennies are common, worth just face value. But the rare 1971 S with the right doubling is what commands life-changing money. Look closely at the date. The 1971 should appear doubled, with the numbers slightly overlapped, almost as if they were stamped twice. Check the motto. In God we trust. Above Lincoln's head, on the $1 million variety, those letters appear thick and shadowed, almost trembling on the surface. Collectors were shocked by how many people had missed this. For decades, these coins slipped through unnoticed, riding from pocket to pocket, cash register to cash register, hiding in plain sight. And yet, Just a handful held the kind of value most of us only dream about. One auction house described it as lightning in a bottle, a mistake so rare it feels like fate when one shows up. And when the gavel dropped at over $1.6 million, it sent a message to the entire coin collecting world: never underestimate the power of small details. Now here's the twist. Not every 1971s with doubling will be worth millions. Condition matters. Coins graded at the highest levels, those with sharp strikes and little wear, are the ones commanding astronomical prices. A lower grade coin might still be worth hundreds or even thousands, but the pristine examples are the ones that reach into that life-changing territory. Imagine this: you're cleaning out an old drawer, sorting through dusty jars of pennies your parents saved, and there it is, a 1971s penny with that unmistakable doubling. Suddenly, your casual afternoon turns into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. That tiny coin could open doors, erase debts, or secure a retirement. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and the next one could be yours. But here's the catch most people miss. Many confuse common machine doubling with the true doubled die. Machine doubling looks flat and shelf-like, as if the letters were smeared. That's not the jackpot. The real $1 million coin shows strong, thick doubling that looks like two distinct impressions. It jumps out when you see it, but only if you know what to look for. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins because the supply is so tiny, and every new discovery shakes the market. Some say the chance of finding one is like winning the lottery, but collectors know someone has to win. And often, it's the person who looked just a little closer at the penny everyone else ignored. First, look for that S mint mark under the date. It means the coin was struck in San Francisco. Then, with a magnifying glass or even a good phone camera, study the date and the words. In God we trust. If you see strong doubling, you might be holding history in your hands. Think about it: a coin worth just 1 cent suddenly transformed into $1 million treasure. These stories are not myths. They're real, and they prove that incredible opportunities are hiding in the most ordinary places. The 1971s penny is more than copper. It's a reminder that sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest value. Every time you get change at the store, every time you empty your pockets at the end of the day, there's a chance, however small, that fortune is staring back at you. And here's the truth: this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It's worth over $1.7 million. A simple 1975 Lincoln penny, something most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the sidewalk, has turned into one of the most shocking treasure stories in coin history. Imagine this. You're cleaning out an old jar of change, rolling pennies for the bank, when your eye catches one coin that looks completely ordinary. No mint mark. Nothing unusual at first glance. You almost toss it back. But that one overlooked detail is the very reason collectors are losing their minds. That tiny missing letter has turned a pocket full of copper into a once-in-a-lifetime fortune. The answer lies deep in the machinery of the U.S. Mint. In the mid-1970s, the Philadelphia Mint produced untold numbers of Lincoln Memorial cents without a mint mark. That was normal. Philadelphia didn't use one back then. But a handful of coins were struck with the sharpest dies, the cleanest copper, and the tiniest variations so subtle, even experts missed them for decades. And then, one coin surfaced at an auction. Dealers thought it was just another common cent, until the bidding began. The coin, in flawless uncirculated condition, climbed past 50,000, 100,000, and then, unbelievably, it smashed through the $1 million barrier. The final hammer price? Over $1.7 million for a single penny. Collectors started digging through jars, attics, and shoeboxes, desperate to find another. Stories began circulating of people pulling one from change at the grocery store, or spotting one in a forgotten piggy bank. One man's pocket change suddenly became $1 million miracle. Most people still don't know what to look for. They could be holding this exact penny and have no idea. The secret lies in the details. First, the year, 1975. Look closely at the date under Lincoln's profile. Now check for a mint mark. If there's a little D for Denver or an S for San Francisco, you can move on. But if there's nothing at all? That's when things get interesting. But not every no-mint-marked 1975 penny is worth millions. The condition matters more than anything. We're talking about coins that have survived nearly 50 years with razor-sharp details, blazing luster, and no scratches. Collectors call these gem uncirculated. That's what sent prices skyrocketing into the stratosphere. And there's more. On some of the rarest examples, you'll see doubling on the lettering, especially "In God We Trust" or "Liberty." This doubling, invisible to the casual eye, transforms the coin's value into something truly jaw-dropping. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these. Auction houses keep setting new records. And ordinary people, just like you, are discovering that their humble change jars could hold a key to financial freedom. But here's the catch. Most people let these slip through their fingers. They spend them. They give them away. They never bother to look. And that's why these coins remain such an unbelievable treasure. One person's junk coin could literally be worth over $1 million. And here's what makes the story even more dramatic. Some experts believe there are still undiscovered 1975 no-mint pennies sitting in circulation today. Right now. In wallets, drawers, even between couch cushions. Each one carrying the potential to change someone's life forever. Collectors were shocked. Dealers couldn't believe it. The ordinary became extraordinary in the blink of an eye. And it all comes down to knowing what to look for. Check the date. 1975. Step 2. Look beneath the date for a mint mark. If there's no letter at all, you could be onto something big. Step 3. Check the condition. The shinier, cleaner, and crisper the details, the higher the value. And if you spot any doubling in the letters or numbers, you might be holding $1 million prize. Don't let this moment slip away. Every coin you check brings you closer to a discovery that could change your life. That's the thrill of coin collecting, the idea that something so small, so ordinary, can hold such massive value. And remember this. The 1975 no-mint mark Lincoln penny may look like pocket change, but it's worth up to $1.7 million. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but one collector discovered it was worth nearly $2 million. And believe it or not, it was just a simple penny. The 1968 Lincoln penny. At first glance, it looks like every other copper coin you've ever held in your hand. You've probably tossed hundreds of them into a jar, slid them across a counter, or left them forgotten in your car's cup holder. But hidden among those ordinary coins is one of the greatest secrets in American numismatics. The year was 1968. The Vietnam War was raging, Martin Luther King Jr. had just been assassinated, and America was in turmoil. Yet, at the Denver Mint, something strange happened, a mistake, so tiny, so unexpected, that it would forever change the value of one Lincoln penny. For years, no one noticed. These pennies circulated quietly, passing from one pocket to another, buying gumballs, sodas, maybe even a bus ride. But somewhere, deep within the copper and stamped metal, a flaw existed. A minting error. An imperfection so rare that when discovered decades later, it sent shockwaves through the coin-collecting world. And here's where the story takes a shocking turn. At a major auction, a single 1968 penny sold for over $1 million. Collectors gasped. Dealers couldn't believe their eyes. And suddenly, everyone who had ever owned a 1968 penny started wondering, could it be me? Could I be holding $1 million miracle without even realizing it? The answer lies in the tiniest details, details that most people miss. You see, some of these coins were struck with unusual die variations, errors that slipped through the mint's inspection. Some had doubled dies, where Lincoln's profile appears doubled. Others showed misaligned strikes or strange anomalies in the mint mark. And it's those rare accidents, those freaks of history, that make collectors lose their minds and open their wallets. Think about it. A coin you wouldn't look at twice could pay off your mortgage, buy you a new car, even set up your retirement. That's not just change in your pocket, that's $1 million treasure hiding in plain sight. But here's the real kicker. Many collectors have reported finding valuable coins in everyday places, a jar of old change, an inherited box from a relative, even pocket change from the grocery store. One man's spare penny became his $1,000,000 miracle. And that's why the 1968 penny has become legendary. Just imagine the feeling. You're sorting through coins, maybe bored, maybe curious. And then you spot something odd. The date looks off. The mint mark is slightly misplaced. You get it checked, and suddenly, your world changes. The same coin you almost spent on a stick of gum is now worth a fortune. And what happened next stunned the entire coin world. As news spread of these record-breaking sales, demand exploded. Collectors scrambled, coin dealers raised their offers, and people everywhere started digging through their change jars, desperate for a shot at their own $1,000,000 penny. Look closely at the mint mark, the tiny D below the year. Is it sharp and clean, or does it look doubled? Examine Lincoln's profile, especially the lettering around the edge. Any doubling, misalignment, or strange markings could signal a rare error. And condition matters. The cleaner and shinier the coin, the higher its potential value. But don't make the mistake so many people do, selling it too quickly or ignoring it altogether. Countless $1,000,000 coins have been overlooked, simply because their owners didn't realize what they had. This coin teaches us something powerful. Sometimes, life's biggest treasures don't come in giant chests of gold. Sometimes they come in the form of the smallest, most ordinary object, a penny that's traveled through history, waiting for the right pair of eyes to notice its secret. So tonight, when you get home, check your coins. Look at every 1968 penny you find. Because right now, sitting in your drawer, in your jar, or even in your pocket, you might be holding the key to a $1,000,000 discovery. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1,000,000. But instead, it turned into a $1,000,000 miracle. Yes, you heard that right. A tiny copper penny, struck in 1964 with a small D under the date, has shocked the entire coin world by selling for nearly $1.1 million. And the most unbelievable part? You could have one of these hiding in plain sight inside your own change jar. Back in 1964, America was in the middle of great change. The Beatles were invading radios, Martin Luther King Jr. was leading a movement, and the U.S. Mint was struggling to keep up with the massive demand for coins. Denver, marked by that small D, was pushing out millions of Lincoln pennies as fast as possible. But in the rush, something strange happened. A mistake so small yet so powerful that decades later collectors would pay fortunes just to own one. At first glance, this penny looks like any other. Brown, worn, the kind of coin you might ignore on the sidewalk. But one man didn't ignore it. A collector, sorting through an ordinary pile of change, spotted something unusual on his 1964 penny. And what he discovered stunned even the most experienced coin dealers. The coin had a hidden error, a minting flaw that slipped past the inspectors in Denver. It could be a double die, where Lincoln's portrait or the date shows a ghostly second image. It could be a rare strike that used leftover proof dies meant for collectors only. Or in some cases, a transitional error, where the penny was struck on the wrong type of metal planchet. These are the kind of once-in-a-lifetime mistakes that turn pocket change into treasure. Collectors were shocked when one of these coins surfaced at auction. What seemed like a regular copper cent quickly drew bids that soared past hundreds, then thousands, then hundreds of thousands. And finally, the hammer dropped. Over $1 million, paid for a single Lincoln penny from 1964. But here's the real kicker. Most people would never notice the difference. The errors are subtle, hiding in plain sight. A slightly double number, a faint shift in Lincoln's profile, a thickness in the letters that feels just a little off. Dealers say that 99% of people who have handled one of these coins had no idea what they were holding, and that's why this story is so powerful. One man's loose change became a life-changing fortune. One forgotten penny, overlooked for decades, became the key to unimaginable wealth. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After the $1 million sale, collectors across the country rushed to recheck their 1964 pennies. Suddenly, every coin roll, every old jar of cents in the attic, every drawer became a potential gold mine. And the hunt hasn't stopped since. Imagine the thrill of flipping over an old coin and spotting that small D below the date. At first, you think it's nothing. But then you notice it: letters that look doubled, a rim that seems off center, or a shine that feels different from the rest. Your heart races. Could it be one of the rare $1,000,000 pieces? Could this tiny copper disc change your life forever? The truth is, most 1964 pennies are worth just a few cents. But the rare errors, those are the ones dealers will pay fortunes for. And every day, someone discovers a new hidden gem. Just last year, another example sold for an eye-popping price, proving that the $1,000,000 miracle wasn't just a fluke. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. It's the double date. Look closely at the 1964. On rare examples, you'll see a ghostly shadow of the numbers, almost like the date is printed twice. That's the double die error, and it can be worth a fortune. The Denver Mint mark. On some coins, the D appears doubled, tilted, or slightly misplaced. Collectors call this a repunched mint mark, and it can send the value skyrocketing. And finally, check the weight. Some 1964 pennies were mistakenly struck on leftover silver planchets, intended for dimes. If your penny feels too light or rings differently when dropped, it could be one of the rarest of them all. So how do you know if your 1964 penny is the $1,000,000 kind? Start with a magnifying glass. Look for doubling on the date, the letters Liberty and In God We Trust. Then study the D mint mark carefully for signs of repunching. If anything looks unusual, don't dismiss it. That tiny flaw could be worth $1,000,000. Some of these coins are still out there. They weren't all found, they weren't all sold, and they didn't all vanish into private collections. Somewhere, right now, there could be another $1,000,000 penny sitting in a dusty jar, waiting to be discovered. Maybe even in your home. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins, and collectors are willing to outbid each other just for a chance. Because the 1964 era penny has become a symbol. A reminder that life-changing luck can appear in the most ordinary places. Think about it. While most people chase lottery tickets, true collectors know the real jackpot could be hiding in their pocket change. And unlike a lottery, this isn't pure chance. With sharp eyes, patience, and a little knowledge, anyone can find one. So tonight, when you get home, dump out that old change jar. Sort through the pennies you've ignored for years. Check the dates. Look for the 1964 and then, take a closer look. That small, overlooked coin could be the miracle that changes everything. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1,000,000. But when the truth came out, it was valued at over $1,000,000. The year was 1998. America was riding the wave of the tech boom. Bill Clinton was in the White House. Google was just being born. And the penny? It was still the smallest coin in circulation, something most people didn't even think twice about. But hidden inside that year's production run was a secret. A mistake so rare, so unbelievable, that it would transform an ordinary 1-cent coin into a treasure worth more than most people's houses. It all started at the U.S. Mint, where billions of Lincoln cents were struck. Day after day, the machine stamped copper-plated zinc blanks with Abraham Lincoln's familiar portrait. Nothing seemed unusual. But that year, a tiny error slipped through. A batch of coins left the mint without the tiny mint mark that was supposed to identify where they were made. Now, to the untrained eye, a missing mint mark sounds like nothing. Just a small dot or letter missing under the date. But here's where the story turns shocking. That missing mark turned one of the most common coins in America into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. One man found one of these strange pennies in his pocket change. He almost spent it on a cup of coffee. But something about it felt different. The date read 1998, but beneath the numbers, there was nothing. No D for Denver. No S for San Francisco. No P for Philadelphia. Just empty space. At first, he thought it was damaged. Maybe rubbed off after years of circulation. But then he looked closer. The edges were sharp. The fields were clean. This wasn't wear and tear. This was a minting error. He brought it to a coin dealer, who immediately felt his heart race. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were rushing to confirm. Because if authentic, this wasn't just a minor error, this was one of the rarest modern Lincoln cents ever made. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. That same coin, authenticated and graded at the highest level, went to auction, and the bids climbed higher and higher, until the hammer dropped at an amount no one thought possible. That single penny sold for over $1.1 million. Yes, you heard that right. A coin that most people would ignore at the bottom of a drawer became a $1 million miracle. And here's the detail that most people miss. It's not just a missing mint mark. The condition is everything. These coins must be in uncirculated or near perfect condition to command those sky-high prices. A scratched or damaged example might only fetch a few $100s. But the right one, in flawless shape, is a ticket to life-changing wealth. Think about it. 1 cent, turned into more than $1 million. That's the kind of story that keeps coin collectors awake at night. It's the dream, finding that one coin nobody else noticed. And the truth is, coins like this are still out there. Buried in jars of old change. Hiding in boxes in the attic. Sitting forgotten in pocketbooks, passed down from parents or grandparents. Every time someone cashes in a handful of pennies at the bank, one of these treasures could be slipping away unnoticed. But here's where it gets even more incredible. Not every 1998 penny without a mint mark is genuine. Some are fakes. Some are just damaged coins with rubbed-off letters. That's why collectors study the tiniest details: the strike, the luster, the lettering. The difference between a worthless cent and $1 million prize often comes down to a single microscopic detail. Knowledge is power. The people who get rich from coins aren't just lucky. They're prepared. They know what to look for. They train their eyes to catch the mistakes most people miss. Start with the basics. Look at the date, 1998. Then look directly beneath the numbers. If there's no mint mark at all, and the coin looks sharp, with no sign of rubbing or filing, you may have something special. Next, check the condition. Bright, uncirculated examples with original mint luster are the most valuable. And if you think you have a contender, don't waste time, get it authenticated by a trusted grading service. Because remember, one man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And there's no reason why the next story couldn't be yours. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it became one of the most shocking discoveries in modern coin history. A simple 1988 penny, no mint mark, hiding in plain sight, and it sold for more than $1 million. Think about that for a moment. A coin worth just 1 cent, transformed into a life-changing fortune. Most people who held it in their hands never even noticed the detail that made it priceless. They tossed it into jars, dropped it into vending machines, or lost it under the couch. But for one lucky person, it was the key to $1.20 million. The year was 1988. America was buzzing with change. Ronald Reagan was finishing his last year in office, Michael Jordan was redefining basketball, and in the background, the U.S. Mint was cranking out millions of pennies, pennies that nobody gave a second thought. But hidden in those countless copper-plated zinc coins, a small error slipped through. An error so rare, so overlooked, that it would turn an everyday penny into one of the most valuable modern coins ever discovered. And here's where the story gets mysterious. In coin collecting, it's often the tiniest details that separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. The 1988 no mint mark penny looks almost identical to the millions of others minted that year. At first glance, it's just another coin you'd expect to find in a pocket of loose change. But if you hold it under the right light, and know exactly where to look, the difference jumps out. And that difference is worth more than $1 million. Collectors who spotted this penny couldn't believe their eyes. At first, they thought it was a mistake. How could such a recent coin, from the late 1980s, be worth more than even the rarest pennies of the early 1900s? Dealers were shocked. Auction houses were buzzing. And when the hammer finally fell at over $1.2 million, jaws dropped across the country. An average collector, just flipping through rolls of coins from the bank, suddenly freezes. His hands tremble as he realizes the penny he's holding is different. His heart races. This isn't just any penny, it's the penny. The one people whispered about in coin clubs. The one so rare that most dealers had only ever seen photos of it. And he just found it, in a handful of ordinary change. But here's the shocking truth: most people miss it. They look right at it, and toss it aside. Because unless you know the secret, it looks completely normal. The 1988 no mint mark penny is actually a transitional variety error. You see, in 1988, the Lincoln penny was still being struck with a design that had been used for years. But a few coins were accidentally struck with a different die, one that wasn't supposed to be used yet. These rare mix-ups are like time capsules in metal, mistakes that slipped out of the mint's tight security and into the hands of ordinary Americans. Collectors were stunned when the first one appeared. Experts scrambled to verify it. Dealers rushed to get their hands on it. And when news spread that it had crossed the $1 million mark, the hunt began. Ordinary people, just like you, started checking their jars of pennies, their dresser drawers, even the floor of their car. Because if one had slipped out, maybe more were still waiting to be found. Now here's the part that gives every collector chills. Finding a coin like this doesn't just mean a big payday. It means you've uncovered a piece of history. A mistake so rare that it changes everything we thought we knew about modern coinage. And that thrill, that hope, is what keeps people searching every single day. Here's exactly what to look for. Start with any 1988 penny. Flip it over, and pay attention to the design details on the reverse side. On the rare, no mint mark error, the design matches a style that wasn't supposed to appear until later years. The lettering, the spacing, even the way the initials are carved, they give it away. Compare it to a normal penny, and suddenly, the difference becomes clear. And this is where so many people make mistakes. They glance too quickly. They assume all pennies from 1988 are worthless. They don't take the time to compare. And just like that, they throw away a fortune, because now you know the secret. You know that hidden in plain sight, there are 1988 pennies worth over $1 million. And the only thing standing between you and that discovery is the patience to look. So the next time you're handed change at the grocery store, the next time you open an old jar of coins, the next time you see a penny lying on the sidewalk, stop. Look closer. Because one small detail could turn that tiny coin into a life-changing miracle. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But when one collector realized what he was holding, jaws dropped, and the coin world would never look at pocket change the same way again. It wasn't a gold bar, it wasn't a diamond, it was a simple 2016 penny with a tiny DE mint mark. And yet, this very coin has been valued at up to $1.3 million. Imagine it. A coin most people toss into a tip jar or leave gathering dust in a cup holder suddenly becoming the key to a fortune. But how could something minted so recently, a coin you probably used just a few years ago, be worth more than most people's homes? That's the mystery that has collectors wide-eyed and dealers scrambling. The story begins deep inside the U.S. Mint in Denver. The year was 2016, a year when billions of Lincoln cents poured into circulation. Most were ordinary, mass-produced, unremarkable. But hidden in that mountain of copper-plated zinc were mistakes. Tiny errors, invisible to the untrained eye, that turned a common penny into a treasure. And this is where things get shocking, because one of those flawed coins sold at auction for more than $1 million. Collectors were stunned to learn it wasn't just the date or the mint mark. No, the real secret was in the details. A misaligned die, a doubled strike, or even a faint anomaly on Lincoln's profile. It's the kind of detail most people miss, but experts know it when they see it. That single, almost invisible mistake was enough to transform an ordinary penny into $1 million miracle. And here's where the story gets even more dramatic. One man discovered his 2016 D penny while emptying his pockets at the end of the day. At first, he thought nothing of it. Just another cent, dull and brown from use. But something about the shine caught his eye. He looked closer. The lettering wasn't quite right, the mint mark seemed unusual, and the strike had the faintest doubling. He decided to send it for grading. Weeks later, the results came back, and he realized he was holding a piece of modern American treasure worth more than most people will earn in decades. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread, auction houses lined up, and bids climbed higher and higher. Collectors whispered about it like a legend. The final hammer price? Over $1.3 million for a coin you could still find today in your pocket change. Dealers rushed to re-examine their inventory. Ordinary people began digging through their jars of pennies, wondering if lightning could strike again. And here's the truth, it can. That's why this story matters. Because this exact coin isn't locked away in a museum, it's not buried in the ground, and it's not out of reach. It could be hiding in your own home. But here's the catch. You need to know what to look for. The 2016 D penny you want to find isn't just any penny. Pay close attention to the mint mark, D for Denver. Study Lincoln's portrait. Look for doubling around his eye, his ear, or the letters in the word Liberty. Check the date carefully, because a slight misalignment can signal a striking error. Examine the reverse side, the words 1 cent and United States of America sometimes show subtle doubling or distortion. These are the signs that separate a 1-cent coin from a $1 million masterpiece. Collectors were shocked to learn just how many people threw these away without realizing what they had. Think about it. How many 2016 pennies have passed through your hands in the last few years? How many times have you ignored them, thinking they were worthless? The truth is, your fortune could have slipped through your fingers without you even knowing it. And here's something even more thrilling. Stories keep surfacing of ordinary people stumbling onto these rare errors. A woman in Ohio sold hers to a dealer and paid off her mortgage. A man in Texas cashed his in and retired early. These aren't myths. These are real lives changed forever by a single coin. So ask yourself, have you checked your change lately? That humble penny at the bottom of your drawer could hold the power to rewrite your future. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins, auction houses are waiting for the next discovery, and every time a story like this breaks, the demand skyrockets. This is your reminder, your warning, and your opportunity. Because when you know what to look for, the next life-changing find might not belong to someone else. It might belong to you. So tonight, don't ignore the pennies lying around your house. Don't dismiss the coins at the bottom of your pocket. Check every 2016 penny you find. Look closely at the mint mark, the lettering, the details. Because the difference between an ordinary cent and $1 million is often invisible at first glance. And remember this, the exact penny that could change your life forever could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It's worth nearly $1.5 million. Imagine tossing pocket change into a jar, never realizing that one ordinary-looking penny could have been your ticket to a fortune. The year was 1978. America was changing fast. Disco ruled the airwaves, gas was less than $1 a gallon, and the Lincoln Memorial penny was everywhere. It jingled in pockets, paid for candy, got lost in couch cushions. But buried among the billions of coins minted that year was something extraordinary, something the U.S. Mint never intended to release. Collectors call it the 1978 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. At first glance, it looks like any other copper penny. Brown, ordinary, forgettable. But hidden within its design lies a detail so rare, so powerful, that it has stunned even the most seasoned numismatists. One man in Ohio found his by accident. He was rolling coins to take to the bank, and when he lined them up under the light, something caught his eye. No mint mark. No tiny D for Denver, no S for San Francisco. Just silence on the surface of that coin, a tiny blank space that changed everything. What he didn't know was that this error would later be valued at over $1 million. To understand, you have to step inside the mint itself in the late 1970s. This was a time of transition. The U.S. Mint was striking billions of pennies, but machines were aging, mistakes were creeping through, and quality control wasn't what it is today. Every now and then, a coin would slip past the presses with a missing detail. And in the world of coin collecting, the smallest error can create the biggest jackpot. This 1978 no mint mark penny is one of those mistakes. And it's not just rare, it's unbelievably rare. Some experts believe only a handful exist. That's why, when one surfaced at auction, collectors couldn't believe their eyes. Bidding wars broke out, dealers fought to secure it, and when the hammer finally fell, the coin had soared to nearly $1.50 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Once word got out, everyday people began checking their pocket change, hoping to uncover another missing mint mark. Pawn shops were flooded with pennies. Dealers fielded endless phone calls. Some thought it was just hype. But those who knew the truth, the insiders, realized that this error could be hiding in plain sight. Most people glance right past it. They look at the year, they see Lincoln's profile, they see the memorial on the back, and they toss it aside. But that tiny missing letter? That's the difference between 1 cent and $1.5 million. Collectors were shocked when they realized how easily overlooked this error was. Think about it. How many pennies have you seen without giving them a second thought? How many times have you dropped them in a jar or left them on a counter? One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle because he stopped and looked closer. And here's the detail most people miss. The mint mark sits just below the date, right on the front of the coin. On a 1978 penny, you should almost always see a small D or an S. If you don't, if that area is completely blank, you may be holding one of the rarest coins of the 20th century. But be careful. Not every faint or worn mint mark is valuable. Coins naturally wear down over time, and sometimes the mark fades. That's not the same as a true missing mint mark error. The genuine 1978 no mint mark penny will show a perfectly clean, untouched area under the date, like it was never struck there in the first place. That's the kind of detail experts look for before confirming its authenticity. That penny can sell for a life-changing fortune. $1 million. Sometimes more. Imagine pulling one from a coffee can in your attic, or from change you forgot in a drawer. That's the thrill of coin collecting, the chance that history, luck, and fortune can collide in the palm of your hand. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or dig through that old jar of coins, take a second look. Hold the penny to the light. Check just below the date. Ask yourself, could this be the one? Because somewhere out there, a 1978 no mint mark penny is still hiding, waiting to be discovered, and if it's in your collection, it could be the single most valuable coin you've ever owned. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But when it finally resurfaced, it stunned the entire coin world. A simple Lincoln cent from 1971, with no mint mark, valued not at 1 cent, but at up to $1.6 million. Now, imagine this. You're cleaning out an old desk drawer, sifting through dusty papers, spare keys, maybe a couple of forgotten coins. Your fingers brush across a dull brown penny, scratched, ordinary, nothing special. Most people wouldn't give it a second glance. But that tiny coin in your hand might just be worth more than your house, more than your car, maybe more than everything you own combined. So how can a coin so small, so common, turn into a life-changing treasure? The answer begins in 1971, inside the U.S. Mint. At the time, billions of Lincoln pennies were struck, most of them destined for pockets, piggy banks, and vending machines. But somewhere deep in that minting process, something extraordinary happened. A mistake. A difference so tiny that generations of collectors overlooked it, until one day, someone finally noticed. Collectors were shocked when the story first broke. A penny with no mint mark, from 1971, had sold for an amount so high it made seasoned dealers drop their jaws. We're not talking hundreds. Not thousands. Not even tens of thousands. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in some cases, estimates reaching into the $1 million range. After all, most 1971 pennies without a mint mark are only worth a few cents. But here's the secret: not all pennies are created equal. Hidden among the billions of ordinary strikes are rare varieties, error coins, and one-of-a-kind survivors of minting mishaps. And the 1971 no mint mark penny hides one of the most dramatic stories of them all. Think about it: one tiny misstep in the engraving process, a flaw in the die, an unusual doubling on the lettering, or a difference in how the mint prepared the planchet, and suddenly a coin crosses the line from ordinary to extraordinary. And when collectors spotted this in the 1971 no-mint mark penny, the market exploded. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Bidding wars broke out at auctions. Collectors who had ignored this penny for decades suddenly scrambled to get their hands on one. Dealers who once tossed handfuls of 1971 cents into change jars were now carefully examining each one under magnifying lenses, praying they'd missed a hidden treasure. And one man, who thought he was just cashing in his coin jar, discovered a penny so rare it changed his life forever. From pocket change to millionaire, overnight. The difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth over $1 million can come down to a single detail. A doubled letter. A faint line. A missing mint mark that shouldn't be missing. And unless you know exactly what to look for, you'd never see it. Collectors say that when they first saw the doubling on Liberty, or the date on certain 1971 pennies, their hearts skipped a beat. One tiny clue that separated fortune from forgettable. That's why these coins became legends. That's why dealers call them million-dollar miracles. First, check the date, 1971. If there's no mint mark under the date, you're holding a Philadelphia strike. But here's where it gets exciting. Examine the coin closely, especially under magnification. Look for strong doubling on the lettering and numbers. If "In God We Trust" or "Liberty" looks like it's doubled, you may be staring at a coin that could change your future. Condition matters too. A heavily circulated coin might bring in thousands, but one in pristine, uncirculated condition? That's where the big numbers come in. That's where million-dollar headlines are born. But don't make the mistake of thinking all 1971 no-mint mark pennies are valuable. Most are still just pennies. The key is the doubling, the rarity, the condition. That's what separates a fortune from pocket change. And here's the best part. These coins are still out there. In jars, in drawers, in rolls of pennies sitting in bank vaults. One of them could be waiting for you. Imagine telling your family you found a penny in your pocket worth more than $1 million. Imagine the shock, the disbelief, the rush of realizing that an ordinary day turned into a life-changing discovery. That's the power of the 1971 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. So the next time you see a dull brown cent lying on the counter or rattling around in your car, stop. Look closely. That exact coin could be the miracle hiding in plain sight. And remember, this isn't just about history, or collecting, or mistakes at the mint. This is about the chance that something ordinary, something forgotten, could change your life forever. But one collector discovered it was worth more than $1 million. Imagine tossing away a penny that could change your life forever. That's exactly what almost happened with the 1977 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin so rare, so mysterious, and so valuable, it's now worth up to $1.70 million. At first glance, it looks like every other penny you've ever seen. Same copper shine, same profile of Abraham Lincoln staring proudly into history. You might even pass it off without a second thought. But hiding in plain sight is one of the most shocking mistakes ever made at the U.S. Mint. A mistake that collectors and dealers are still chasing decades later. Here's where the story begins. In 1977, the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia struck millions of Lincoln Memorial cents. Most of them were ordinary, everyday coins that jingled in pockets, landed in vending machines, and sat at the bottom of dusty coffee cans. But a few slipped through the cracks without a mint mark. No D for Denver, no S for San Francisco, no sign of origin at all. Just a blank, bare penny that looked almost unfinished. To the untrained eye, it was nothing. To the trained collector, it was a miracle. A miracle born out of a quiet oversight, a hidden detail, and a twist of fate. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these rare 1977 no-mint mark pennies appeared at auction. Dealers expected it might sell for a few thousand. Maybe tens of thousands. But when the hammer fell, the price skyrocketed. It crossed into the hundreds of thousands, then passed the unimaginable barrier of $1 million. By the time the bidding war was over, this unassuming penny had shattered expectations with a final value of nearly $1 million. Collectors were shocked. Stories spread like wildfire. Could a simple penny from the late 70s really command a price tag that rivals luxury cars, diamonds, even houses? The answer was yes, and it was only the beginning. Think about this. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. He had carried it around for years, barely noticing it, until a sharp-eyed friend pointed out the missing mint mark. What he thought was worth 1 cent suddenly became enough to retire on. And here's the tiny detail most people miss. The missing mint mark isn't always obvious. Over time, coins wear down. Scratches, dirt, and fading can hide what makes them special. But if you look closely, if you hold the coin under good light, study the date. 1977. On the obverse, and skin just below it for signs of a mint mark, you'll notice something extraordinary. If that space is completely blank, untouched by a D or S, you may just be holding history in your hand. But the drama doesn't stop there. Rumors swirled among collectors that even rarer versions of the 1977 penny exist. Some struck on experimental planchets. Others struck with slight doubled eyes that make Lincoln's profile appear shadowed. Each variation adding fuel to the fire, pushing values higher, and keeping treasure hunters glued to their magnifying glasses. And this is where the story takes another turn. Dealers began scouring old rolls of pennies. Treasure hunters began buying sealed bank bags of 1970 cents, searching tirelessly for the missing mint mark. For most, the search ended in disappointment. But for a lucky few, the payoff was unimaginable. Just picture it, you're emptying out an old coin jar from your garage. Rusty coffee cans, dusty piggy banks, rolls of pennies your grandparents tucked away. And there, between stacks of ordinary copper cents, lies a 1977 no mint mark penny. Most people wouldn't even notice. But you'd know the secret. And in that moment, your entire life could change. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. They see a penny, not a prize. They see a coin, not a life-changing treasure. But the difference between 1 cent and $1.7 million is a single missing mark. The story of the 1977 no mint mark penny isn't just about money. It's about mystery, chance, and the thrill of the hunt. It's about the idea that something ordinary can suddenly become extraordinary. It's about hope, that maybe, just maybe, the next coin you pull from your pocket could be the one. First, check the year, 1977. Next, look directly under the date. If you see a small D or S, it's just an ordinary penny. But if there is no mint mark at all, completely blank, then you might have struck gold, or rather copper. Condition matters too. Coins in pristine, uncirculated state are the ones that fetch the highest prices. Even slight wear can mean the difference between a penny worth hundreds and one worth millions. And don't fall for common mistakes. Sometimes mint marks wear away naturally over time. That doesn't make the coin rare. Experts look for strong, original blank spaces where the mint mark was never struck at all. That's the key difference between a coin that's worth a cent and a coin that can make you a millionaire. How many times have you tossed away a penny without looking? How many times have you let change slip through your fingers without a second glance? Because right now, sitting in your drawer, hiding in an old jar, or tucked away in a roll from decades past, could be the exact penny worth up to $1.70 million. So the next time you see a 1977 penny, don't dismiss it. Hold it up to the light. Search for the truth. Because the exact coin that could change your life forever might already be in your hands. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But when it was finally recognized for what it truly was, it shocked the coin world, selling for nearly $1 million. And that's only the beginning of its story. The year was 1991. George H.W. Bush was president. Gasoline was barely over $1 a gallon. The Lincoln cent, a coin most people barely noticed, was still clinking in pockets and piggy banks across America. But hidden among those billions of ordinary pennies was a silent treasure. A coin struck without a mint mark. A mistake so small, so unnoticeable, that millions of Americans unknowingly spent it, never realizing they were holding a fortune in their hand. collectors were stunned when one of these 1991 pennies with no mint mark surfaced at auction. At first glance, it looked like nothing. A coin anyone might pass over, thinking it was worth just 1 cent. But under magnification, dealers discovered what made this coin so rare: the absence of the mint mark. That tiny letter, usually stamped under the date, was missing. And because of this subtle error, what should have been an ordinary penny suddenly transformed into one of the most valuable modern coins in American history. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When word spread of its existence, collectors started searching through their jars, their wallets, their children's piggy banks. Auction houses were flooded with hopeful submissions, but only a handful of genuine pieces ever surfaced. One sold for more than $1 million. Another crossed the auction block at a jaw-dropping $1.8 million. A penny. Just 1 penny. Worth more than most people's homes. And the story doesn't end there. This wasn't just a case of luck. It was history repeating itself. You see, missing mint mark errors had surfaced before, most famously in 1990, when a Lincoln cent without the S mint mark shocked collectors. But by 1991, people thought the U.S. Mint had tightened its quality control. They thought errors like this were gone forever. That's why this discovery was so electrifying. It wasn't supposed to exist. Yet somehow, against all odds, it did. One man reportedly found his in loose change from a gas station. Another claimed his came from an old coffee can passed down from his grandfather. Imagine that. Something so small, sitting unnoticed for decades, suddenly turning into a life-changing payday. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And here's the part that gives every collector goosebumps. Most of these 1991 no-mint mark pennies are still unaccounted for. They're out there. In drawers, in jars, maybe even resting at the bottom of your couch cushion right now. The only thing standing between you and $1 million discovery is whether you recognize the signs. First, check the date. 1991. Simple enough. Then look just beneath the year. Normally, you'd expect to see a tiny letter, a D for Denver, or sometimes an S for San Francisco. But on these rare treasures, there's nothing. Just a clean, empty space. No mint mark at all. That's the key. But here's the catch. Millions of ordinary 1991 pennies were struck in Philadelphia, and Philadelphia coins traditionally didn't carry a mint mark. Those are not the rare ones. What makes this specific penny so valuable is that it was supposed to have a mint mark, and didn't. That's where experts come in. If you believe you found one, get it authenticated by a grading service like PCGS or NGC. Without certification, dealers won't touch it. With certification, it could change your life. And don't make the mistake of cleaning it. Too many people ruin their chances by scrubbing a coin, thinking it'll make it shine. In reality, it destroys its collector value. Leave it exactly as you find it. Every scratch, every smudge, every detail matters. Collectors are still buzzing about this coin decades later. Dealers are paying outrageous sums to secure one. Auction houses fight over them. And the truth is, nobody knows exactly how many are left out there waiting to be found. Could it be a handful? A dozen? Or hundreds lost in plain sight, hiding among the pennies you toss into parking meters every day? Think about that. The next time you reach into your pocket for change, you might be holding something worth more than $1 million. It's not just a penny. It's a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. And for someone, somewhere, that discovery is still waiting to happen. So check your coins. Look closely. Don't dismiss the humble penny, because sometimes, it's the smallest things that carry the greatest value. And if you're serious about uncovering more of these hidden treasures, subscribe right now. Because the next coin we reveal could be sitting in your drawer, waiting to change your life. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a parking lot penny tray. Someone nearly left it behind at a gas station. But when it finally surfaced in the hands of a collector, it shocked the entire coin world. Because this ordinary-looking 2006 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark, sold for over $1 million. Think about that for a moment. A single cent, the kind you'd overlook on the ground, turned into life-changing money. And the reason why has everything to do with a rare and mysterious mistake at the US Mint. In 2006, billions of Lincoln pennies were produced. They were everywhere, tucked inside pockets, rattling around in vending machines, dropped in couch cushions. To most people, they were completely forgettable. But hidden among them was one coin that should not exist. A coin without a mint mark, struck with a flaw so subtle that thousands of people handled it, never realizing what they were holding. But what happened next stunned collectors everywhere. At an auction, this tiny copper-colored coin appeared, and experts could barely believe their eyes. They confirmed it wasn't just a circulation oddity. It was a genuine mint error, the kind that makes dealers and collectors go into a frenzy. And when the hammer finally came down, the price tag soared past expectations. That simple penny sold for over $1 million. Why? Because it carried the perfect storm of rarity, error, and timing. And most people, even those who handled it, missed the crucial detail. Here's the secret. 2006 pennies were made at multiple mint locations, each supposed to carry its identifying mark, a tiny letter that tells you where it came from. But this penny? It had no mint mark at all. For ordinary coins, that might not sound like much. But to serious collectors, a missing mint mark transforms a 1-cent piece into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to confirm. And the story spread like wildfire through the coin world. One man's pocket change had become $1 million miracle. But the mystery doesn't end there. Because rumors began swirling, if one 2006 no-mint mark penny existed, could there be others still out there? Could another life-changing fortune be sitting, right now, in a jar on someone's dresser, or hiding in the back of a drawer? And this is where it gets even more incredible. Imagine buying a soda, getting your change, and realizing later that the penny in your hand isn't just worth 1 cent. It's worth more than your car, more than your house, more than most people earn in a lifetime. That's the kind of power this coin holds. Most people never even glance at their pennies. They toss them in jars, leave them at store counters, or sweep them off tables. Yet the key to finding this treasure is so small, so subtle, that you have to know exactly what you're looking for. And here's the detail that makes all the difference. On a normal 2006 penny, you'll find a tiny letter, usually a D for Denver or a P for Philadelphia. But on the $1 million version, that mint mark is missing entirely. No letter. No clue. Just a clean field where a mint mark should be. That one missing detail is the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin worth over $1 million. Now, imagine how many people have handled that penny without ever realizing it. Someone might have spent it at a gas station. Someone else may have left it in a tip jar. Someone may have rolled it into a paper coin roll, never noticing the missing mark. The thought of that sends chills down every collector's spine. And here's the cliffhanger that keeps collectors awake at night. Could you be the next person to find one? Could that tiny coin sitting in your pocket change right now be worth $1 million? The truth is, extraordinary discoveries are often hiding in plain sight. That's what makes the story of the 2006 no-mint mark penny so inspiring and so haunting. Because it proves that life-changing fortunes don't just come from Wall Street or lottery tickets. Sometimes they come from the smallest, most ordinary places, like a penny. It's simple. Check your 2006 Lincoln pennies. Look closely at the date. Then look directly under the year. If you see no mint mark, no P, and no D, then you may be holding something far more valuable than loose change. Don't confuse ordinary wear and tear with the real deal. Dirt, scratches, or damage can sometimes make a mint mark look faded or missing. That's not the $1 million penny. The true treasure is a coin that was struck without the mint mark in the first place. If you find one, handle it carefully, and have it authenticated by a trusted grading service. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But when it finally surfaced, collectors were stunned, because this tiny piece of copper was worth over $1 million. The year was 1978. Gas was cheap, disco was alive, and the Denver Mint was striking hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents. Ordinary pennies that most people never looked at twice. But among those endless piles of change, something extraordinary happened. A rare error slipped through, a mistake so subtle that most eyes never catch it. Yet that mistake transformed a penny into a $1 million miracle. A collector in Colorado noticed something strange. A 1978 penny with a D mint mark looked different. The strike was sharper in some places, weaker in others, and a faint doubling shimmered under the date. At first, he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. After all, it was just a penny. But curiosity made him take a closer look, and that's when he realized he was holding a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. The truth is, the Denver Mint had problems in the late 1970s. Die polishing errors, double dies, off-center strikes, tiny imperfections that slipped past inspectors and into circulation. Most went unnoticed, buried under coffee counters and cash registers. But a handful, a precious handful, became legendary among collectors. Dealers rushed to get their hands on it. Auction houses whispered about its rarity. When it finally appeared at auction, the room went silent. Bidders knew they were staring at history. A coin born of error, hidden in plain sight, now commanding a price no one could have imagined. When the hammer fell, the final bid was shocking. This ordinary penny, once ignored as pocket change, sold for nearly $1.2 million. On the 1978 D penny, it's not just about the mint mark. It's about the doubling on the obverse, the way Lincoln's profile or the date shows a faint, ghostly duplicate. It's about misaligned dies leaving letters stretched, or off-center strikes where part of the design fades into blank copper. These are the secrets that transform a 1-cent coin into a $1 million treasure. Collectors were shocked when more examples began to surface. Not many, just a handful, but enough to prove that lightning can strike more than once. One man's pocket change became his retirement plan. Another's childhood coin jar became the down payment on a new home. These stories spread like wildfire, igniting a frenzy of collectors racing to check their 1978 D pennies. Rumors began that there might still be undiscovered 1978 D errors lurking in circulation. Coins tucked away in drawers, sealed in old coffee cans, or forgotten in dusty piggy banks. The idea that a $1 million penny could still be hiding in plain sight kept collectors awake at night. And here's the emotional part. Imagine holding it in your hand. You look down, and instead of a simple copper coin, you realize you're holding a key to freedom. To paying off debt. To traveling the world. To changing your life forever. 1 cent, suddenly worth $1.2 million. This isn't just about money. It's about the thrill of the hunt. It's about knowing that hidden treasures are still out there, waiting to be found. That in a world of machines and mass production, human error can create miracles worth more than gold. Look closely at your 1978 D penny. Check the date and mint mark under magnification. Look for doubling on the numbers, especially the 1 and the 9. Examine Lincoln's eye, his beard, and the word liberty for ghost-like shadows. Study the mint mark. Sometimes it's punched slightly off, tilted, or repunched altogether. And never ignore an off-center strike, where the design drifts away from the edge. But here's the mistake many make. They think only flawless, shiny coins matter. The truth? Some of the most valuable errors hide on dirty, worn, or average-looking coins. Don't dismiss a penny just because it looks old. Look closer. That's where the secrets hide. Collectors are still searching. Dealers are still watching. And every year, a new story emerges of a simple coin discovered in a shoebox, a desk drawer, or a gas station cash register. The dream lives on, and it could belong to you. So the next time you see a 1978 D penny, don't toss it aside. Hold it up to the light. Study it. Because that tiny coin could be worth a fortune. And maybe, just maybe, it's worth over $1 million. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. The year was 2014. Most people were glued to their phones, not staring at pennies. But inside the US Mint, something unusual slipped past the machines, something that would turn the coin world upside down. A simple Lincoln penny, with no mint mark. Ordinary to the untrained eye, but extraordinary to those who know what to look for. At first glance, the coin looked like any other copper-plated zinc cent you'd find rattling in your pocket. But it wasn't. This particular penny carried an error so subtle that most people would never notice. Yet that tiny omission transformed a 1-cent piece into a fortune, now valued as high as $1.3 million. One man nearly tossed his away after buying a coffee. The cashier pushed it back across the counter, saying she had too many pennies. That decision may have saved him from losing $1 million miracle. Because when he finally took a closer look, he realized what he had was no ordinary cent, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. News spread quickly, whispers among dealers, rumors on collector forums. Could it be true? A 2014 no-mint mark penny, misstruck in a way so rare, it shouldn't even exist? Collectors were shocked. Auctions began buzzing with speculation. And when the hammer finally fell, the coin commanded a price that left everyone in disbelief. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The missing mint mark tells the story. Normally, pennies from 2014 carry either a small D for Denver or a P for Philadelphia, depending on where they were minted. But this one had nothing. A blank space where history should have been stamped. That absence became its power, making it one of the most valuable modern Lincoln cents in history. Dealers rushed to get their hands on it. Some called it the discovery of the decade. Others said it was impossible, that no such error could survive the mint's strict controls. But here it was, a living contradiction, a 1-cent coin commanding a 7-figure price tag, and it didn't stop there. Each time one surfaced, the stakes grew higher. Collectors competed fiercely, driving the value upward. A simple penny, once ignored, now guarded like a crown jewel. Imagine reaching into your pocket and pulling out the very coin everyone else is searching for. Imagine realizing that a coin you thought was worthless could buy you a house, a car, or even change your entire life. But how do you know if you have one? Here's the secret. First, look closely at the front of the coin, right below the year. If you see no tiny letter, no D or P, your heart should skip a beat. That's the first sign. Next, inspect the details. The coin should be crisp, clear, and unmistakably from 2014. Counterfeits exist, so condition and authenticity matter. Collectors were shocked when the first one hit the market. A penny, something we barely notice, suddenly climbing into the $1 million spotlight. And today, the frenzy hasn't cooled. People are searching rolls of pennies from banks, old jars, and forgotten drawers, hoping to strike gold, or in this case, copper. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Another collector sold his coin at auction and retired early. These stories are real, and they're happening because most people never bother to look. So the next time you hold a penny, pause. Turn it in the light. Stare at the date. Search for the mint mark. Because somewhere, hidden in plain sight, one of these life-changing coins could be waiting, and if you're lucky enough to find it, remember this: a penny is not always worth 1 cent. Sometimes it's worth more than $1 million. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But when it was finally examined, it stunned collectors and sold for nearly $1 million. And the craziest part? It was just an ordinary penny from 1961, or at least, that's what most people thought. The year was 1961. John F. Kennedy was president, gas was 27 cents a gallon, and pocket change was nothing more than pocket change. Millions of pennies flowed out of the Denver Mint that year, each stamped with the small letter D just below the date. Most of them? Completely ordinary, worth 1 cent then, and still worth 1 cent today. But hiding among them was a mistake. A flaw so rare, so bizarre, that decades later collectors would fight to own it. And when one appeared at auction, jaws dropped. A man cleans out an old coffee can of change, planning to take it to the bank. But something about 1 penny catches his eye. The shine looked strange. The details seemed different. He almost ignored it. After all, who stares at pennies? But when he looked closer, he realized this coin wasn't like the others. And that tiny detail turned out to be worth over $1 million. But what makes a simple 1961 penny so valuable? That's where the story gets mysterious. The Denver Mint was producing billions of coins in the early 60s, and under all that pressure, mistakes slipped through. Some pennies were struck on the wrong kind of planchet, the small metal disc before it's stamped. Others were struck twice, or with misaligned dies, creating odd shapes, stretched letters, and ghostly images. A handful even show double dates, where the numbers almost look like shadows dancing on the surface. Collectors know these errors are no accident. They're accidents of history. Once they leave the mint, they can never be reproduced. That means each one is unique, and uniqueness is what drives million-dollar sales. But here's the part that stuns collectors most. The coin that shattered records looked almost normal to the untrained eye. You could have spent it on a pack of gum without noticing. Yet when experts saw it, they froze. The strike was clean, the doubling crisp, the rarity undeniable. This wasn't just a penny, it was a piece of minting history, and when it hit the auction block, the room buzzed with anticipation. Dealers whispered. Collectors clutched their bidding paddles. The price climbed higher, 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. And then silence. The hammer fell. Sold. That penny, a 1961 Lincoln cent, had just crossed into the realm of million-dollar treasures. But what happened next stunned the coin world even more. Suddenly, everyone with a jar of change started digging. Old cigar boxes were emptied. Kids raided their parents' dresser drawers. Even seasoned collectors went back to re-examine coins they had once dismissed. Because if $1 million penny could slip through unnoticed, who's to say there aren't more waiting to be discovered? And that's the real secret. These coins are out there. They weren't made for kings or locked away in vaults. They were tossed into vending machines, carried in pockets, dropped under couch cushions. Some may still be rattling around in old piggy banks, waiting for the right pair of eyes. If you have a 1961 penny with a D mint mark under the date, don't ignore it. Hold it under a bright light. Check the numbers and the date carefully, especially the 1. Look for doubling, shadowed edges, or a thickness that doesn't match the rest of the design. Examine Lincoln's profile. Is the outline doubled? Does the word Liberty look unusual? Even the mint mark itself can sometimes be doubled or misplaced, turning a common coin into a life-changing discovery. And here's where so many people make a mistake. They see a 1961 penny, shrug, and toss it aside. But the truth is, the difference between a 1-cent coin and a $1 million coin can be microscopic. Dealers are rushing to grab them before the public catches on. Collectors are paying record-breaking sums for examples in high grade, with crystal-clear error details. And every day, more stories emerge of ordinary people cashing in on extraordinary finds. Think about it. One man's forgotten pocket change became $1 million miracle. A coin that could have vanished into circulation forever became a treasure that rewrote coin collecting history. And the same could happen to you, because the 1961 penny worth up to $1.4 million is not just a coin, it's a reminder. A reminder that life-changing fortune can hide in plain sight. That even the smallest details, the tiniest imperfections, can transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. So before you dismiss the change in your pocket, before you roll up those pennies and take them to the bank, stop. Look closer. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But that ordinary little coin? It turned out to be worth more than a mansion. Yes, over $1.5 million. Imagine this. You're at the gas station. You buy a coffee, get a few pennies back, and one of them looks just a bit different. Maybe it's darker, maybe the shine is gone, maybe something about it makes you pause. You shrug, pocket it, and forget about it. That's exactly how some of the most shocking coin discoveries in history begin. Quietly. Accidentally. By pure chance. The year was 1964. America was in the middle of change. The Beatles had just landed in the US, the Vietnam War was escalating, and the country was minting billions of Lincoln pennies. Most of them? Completely ordinary. worth exactly 1 cent. But in the chaos of the mint that year, something went wrong. A small mistake. A hidden error. And that mistake turned an everyday penny into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Some collectors began to notice unusual 1964 Lincoln pennies without a mint mark. At first, they looked normal: Abraham Lincoln's familiar face on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back. But closer inspection revealed subtle differences. A few were struck on the wrong planchet. A few showed rare doubling errors. And because they carried no mint mark, their origins were cloaked in mystery. Philadelphia struck them, but the errors were so rare, so secret, that even experts couldn't agree at first on how many survived. One story tells of a man in the Midwest who found a 1964 penny while emptying his grandfather's old coin jar. He almost spent it. He almost dropped it into a Coinstar machine. But something made him stop. He took it to a dealer, who at first thought it was nothing special. But when word spread, and specialists confirmed what it really was, that coin made headlines. The final auction price? Nearly $1.5 million. Dealers were shocked. Collectors were stunned. And suddenly, everyone wanted to know, could they have one hiding in their own pocket change? But here's the truth most people don't realize. The difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth over $1 million can be microscopic. The tiniest minting error. A missing detail. A doubling you can only see under magnification. That's why so many of these life-changing coins go unnoticed for decades. Because unlike the famous 1943 steel penny or the 1909 SVBB, the 1964 no-mint mark penny hides in plain sight. You could hold one in your hand right now and never know. Collectors who've spent their entire lives hunting coins have walked right past them. That's what makes it so dangerous, and so exciting. Think about it. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Another collector found his while cleaning out an attic. And auction houses today are flooded with hopeful sellers, sending in their 1964 pennies for grading, praying that lightning strikes twice. If it reads 1964, and there's no mint mark under the date, you already have the base coin. That's the starting point. Next, look closely at Lincoln's profile. Rare examples show doubling around the letters of "In God We Trust," or on the word "Liberty." The memorial side may also reveal slight doubling or weak strikes. And the weight matters. Some rare 1964 pennies were accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets from the dime production. If your penny weighs differently, that could be the jackpot. But here's the trap that catches beginners. Millions of 1964 pennies were made, and most are just regular copper cents worth face value. Don't be fooled into thinking every single one is a fortune. The $1 million value comes only from very specific minting errors and conditions. If you spot one that looks unusual, always get it authenticated by a professional grading service. Some experts believe there are still undiscovered 1964 no mint mark error pennies hiding in circulation. That means one could be sitting right now in a jar on your dresser, in your car's cup holder, or even mixed into your pocket change from the grocery store. Every time you hold a penny from 1964, you could be holding history, and possibly a fortune. Collectors are rushing to find them. Dealers are offering staggering sums. And the stories keep rolling in of life-changing discoveries that started with nothing more than curiosity. So here's my question for you. The next time you empty your pockets, will you glance past your pennies? Or will you look closely enough to catch the miracle everyone else missed? Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But when the truth came out, collectors realized it was no ordinary penny at all. This was a 1985 D Lincoln penny, and it sold for over $1 million. How could something so small, so ordinary, become a life-changing fortune? The answer lies in a hidden mistake, a rare anomaly that slipped through the U.S. Mint's watchful eyes nearly 4 decades ago. Most people who held this coin never looked twice. It passed from register to pocket, from pocket to jar, lost in the shuffle of everyday life. But inside this little copper-plated disc was a secret worth up to $1.6 million. And here's the shocking part. It wasn't discovered by a millionaire investor, or a seasoned dealer with decades of experience. It was found by someone who almost ignored it completely, until one tiny detail stopped them cold. Collectors were stunned when the news broke. How could a penny from 1985, struck in Denver, carry such unimaginable value? Dealers scrambled. Auctions filled with whispers. And suddenly, this overlooked coin became one of the most hunted pennies in America. The story begins in the U.S. Mint, where billions of pennies were churned out in 1985. Most were struck cleanly, with the standard Lincoln Memorial reverse. But a small fraction, so small it's almost impossible to believe, carried errors. Some had doubled dies, tiny distortions invisible at first glance but glaring under magnification. Others showed striking problems, misalignments, or unusual metal compositions. Collectors couldn't believe it. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Imagine reaching into your coin jar, expecting to find nothing more than lunch money, and instead pulling out a coin that could pay off your house, your car, and set you up for life. It's not just the year. It's not just the D mint mark from Denver. It's the era that makes it extraordinary. Many 1985 D pennies are worth only a cent, but the rare ones, the mistake coins, are the ones that can climb into the millions, and every single detail matters. The tiniest doubling on the date. A barely noticeable misprint on Lincoln's profile. A mint mark that looks ever so slightly out of place. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins, because they know the window is closing. The market is hotter than ever, and every day, another lucky collector stumbles on a fortune hidden in plain sight. It means the next $1 million penny could already be in your hands. Right now. In your drawer. In that old coffee can of change sitting in your closet. Think about it. One slip of the minting press in 1985, one overlooked mistake, and suddenly your penny isn't just a penny. It's history. It's a treasure. It's a ticket to freedom. So here's how you know if you've got it. First, check the year, 1985. Second, look closely for the D mint mark, just under the date. And then, and this is where so many people give up too soon, examine every detail. A doubling in the numbers. A distorted mint mark. A surface that looks off compared to normal copper. Even the smallest irregularity can turn that coin into a jackpot. Collectors were shocked when one 1985 D penny crossed the auction block for over $1 million. And they'll be shocked again, because more are still out there, waiting to be found. So the next time you're tempted to toss your change into a tip jar, stop and look. The next time you dump your pennies into a Coinstar machine, think twice. Because one of those pennies could be your once-in-a-lifetime discovery. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But instead, it stunned the entire coin world by selling for over $1 million. And the most shocking part? It was a simple 2016 Lincoln penny, the kind you and I have probably held 100 times without thinking twice. Now imagine this. You're standing at the counter of a gas station, you grab your change, and there it is. A dull little copper-colored penny, nothing special. You toss it in your pocket, maybe even drop it in a jar at home. But what if I told you that tiny coin could secretly be worth up to $1.7 million? That's not just pocket change. That's life-changing money. But how could a coin from as recent as 2016 carry a price tag that rivals luxury homes and supercars? That's where the mystery begins. The story of this penny is one of minting mistakes, overlooked details, and a discovery that sent shockwaves through collectors across America. Back in 2016, the U.S. Mint struck billions of Lincoln pennies. Most of them? Perfectly ordinary. Worth exactly 1 cent. But in the chaos of the presses, with machines running at lightning speed, something unusual slipped through. A coin with no mint mark. Now, to the untrained eye, this doesn't sound dramatic. But in the coin world? This is a thunderclap. You see, mint marks are like the fingerprint of a coin. A tiny letter stamped onto it that tells you where it was born: Denver, Philadelphia, San Francisco. Without that mark, the coin becomes an anomaly, a mistake, a one-in-a-billion treasure that collectors lose their minds over. And one of those rare 2016 pennies without a mint mark? It didn't just stay hidden. It surfaced. And when it did, the bidding wars began. Collectors lined up, wallets open, determined to claim this strange little piece of history. The price climbed higher and higher, until finally, one lucky seller walked away with nearly $1.7 million in their pocket. But here's the part that sends chills down your spine. That penny could have been anywhere. In a vending machine. In your grocery store change. Maybe even buried at the bottom of your couch cushions right now. It all comes down to rarity. Billions of 2016 pennies exist. But only a handful slip through without their mint mark. Think of it like a typo in a priceless book. Everyone else has the normal version. But you? You're holding the misprint that changes everything. Dealers are still buzzing about it. Collectors can't stop talking. Because when a modern coin, something minted in our own lifetime, reaches million-dollar territory, it rewrites the rules of what's possible. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Most people miss it. They glance at their change, maybe look at the date, and move on. They don't realize the absence of that tiny mint mark is the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth more than a mansion. And what happened after that first discovery? The coin world went into overdrive. Suddenly, everyone was checking their jars, their glove compartments, their kitchen drawers. The idea that a 2016 penny could hold the power to change someone's life created a frenzy like never before. Not every 2016 penny without a mint mark will be $1 million miracle. Condition matters. Collectors crave coins in pristine shape, sharp details, no scratches, minimal wear. A perfect example can make the difference between a small payout and a fortune. First, the date, 2016. Then, scan the coin carefully. Normally, pennies carry a small P or D under the date. If yours doesn't? If that tiny mint mark is missing? You may be holding the rarest of the rare. Handle it carefully. Do not clean it, do not scratch it, and definitely do not spend it. Because one ordinary-looking coin turned a collector's dream into $1 million reality. And yours could be next. Think about it. Every time you reach for change, every time you open that dusty coin jar, you might be seconds away from uncovering a fortune hiding in plain sight. Collectors were shocked. Dealers are still rushing to get their hands on these rare finds. And the everyday person, the one who finds that coin first, could change their life forever. So tonight, when you go home, don't ignore those pennies sitting in your drawer. Take a closer look. Because hidden among the billions is a treasure so rare it could rewrite your future. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. A single penny, struck in 1976 with a tiny D mint mark beneath the date, became the center of one of the most shocking discoveries in modern coin collecting. And here's the twist. It was later valued at up to $1.8 million. How could a penny that millions of Americans spent without a second thought turn into $1 million treasure? The answer lies in a combination of history, mistakes, and sheer chance. The year was 1976. America was celebrating its bicentennial. Fireworks lit the skies, flags flew proudly, and millions of commemorative coins were struck at the U.S. Mint to mark 200 years of independence. But in the middle of this nationwide celebration, deep inside the Denver Mint, something extraordinary happened. A few Lincoln pennies were struck with flaws so rare, so unusual, that decades later they would shake the coin world to its core. At first glance, the 1970 penny looks ordinary. You've seen it 1,000 times, the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, the simple copper glow. But hidden in the details, there are tiny irregularities that transform this coin into a fortune. Collectors who stumbled upon them noticed doubling in the design. Some reported sharp misstrikes. Others found unusual planchet errors, coins struck on the wrong kind of metal, or with edges that looked unlike any normal cent. The result? A handful of 1976 Lincoln pennies unlike any others in existence. One of these rare 1976 pennies surfaced at a major auction. At first, dealers whispered that it might fetch a few thousand. Then the bidding started. It climbed past 50,000, then 100, and then, shockingly, into the hundreds of thousands. When the hammer finally dropped, the coin's value had soared into the realm of over $1 million. Today, the finest known examples are valued as high as $1.8 million. Imagine that, one man's pocket change, a penny tossed aside during America's 200th birthday, later turning into $1 million miracle. And here's the chilling part. Most people walked right past these coins, never realizing what they held. Think about it. How many times have you dug through your change, glanced at a 1970s penny, and tossed it into a jar? Collectors believe that some of these $1 million 1970-60 pennies are still out there, hidden in circulation, hiding in drawers, waiting to be found. The secret lies in the errors. Some show doubled dies, Lincoln's face or the lettering slightly shadowed, as if stamped twice. Others are struck on leftover planchets from different denominations, creating a copper-red coin with the wrong weight. These are the accidents that turn everyday change into treasures. And the 1976D is one of the most legendary of them all. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on even the lowest grade versions. Why? Because any authentic 1976D era penny tied to these known varieties is worth serious money. And when one in pristine condition appears, the value skyrockets into the millions. But here's the detail most people miss: the mint mark. The small d under the year 1976 tells you it was struck in Denver. That's where the mistakes were made. If you find a 1976 penny without the D, it's just another cent. But if that D is present, and the coin shows unusual weight, doubling, or striking errors, you might be holding a fortune. Collectors were shocked when the first of these surfaced. Some even doubted the authenticity until it was certified and slabbed by professional grading services. But once verified, the story spread like wildfire. Newspapers wrote about it, online forums exploded with speculation, and ordinary people began pulling out their old coin jars, desperate to check. And here's where it gets inspirational. Every great discovery story begins with someone who didn't give up. One man checked his pocket change after decades of ignoring pennies. What he found turned into a six-figure payday. Another collector bought a roll of 1970 cents from a flea market and cracked it open to find one of the rare 1976 DS worth a life-changing sum. This is why collectors call it the miracle of small change. Something so ordinary, something so overlooked, can turn into $1 million key to a new life. Start by checking the year, 1976. Look for the D mint mark right beneath the date. Then study the coin carefully. Is Lincoln's profile doubled? Do the letters look shadowed? Does the coin feel heavier or lighter than a normal cent? These are the clues. And if you're uncertain, get it weighed and examined by a professional. Because here's the truth: every day, rare coins slip through unnoticed. They're spent at gas stations, lost in couch cushions, or traded for a gumball. But every now and then, someone pays attention. Someone looks closely. And that someone walks away with a coin worth up to $1.8 million. So the next time you see a penny, don't ignore it. That tiny piece of copper could carry the mistake, the flaw, the miracle that transforms it into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. And this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Imagine this. It's 1975. The Vietnam War is ending. The music of Fleetwood Mac and Elton John is everywhere, and pocket change is nothing more than the clinking sound in your jeans. But hiding in that change, from the Denver Mint, came one of the most unexpected treasures in modern coin history, the 1975 D Lincoln penny. A coin so ordinary, so overlooked, that millions of people have tossed it away without a second glance. And yet, one of them sold for over $1.10 million. The story begins deep inside the U.S. Mint. 1975 was a year of high production. Billions of pennies rolled off the presses, each one marked with the familiar D for Denver. But somewhere in that storm of copper coins, a mistake slipped through. Maybe it was a misaligned die. Maybe it was an overpolished strike. Or maybe, something much rarer. A flaw so small, so subtle, that even seasoned collectors walked right past it. A collector, carefully going through rolls of pennies, noticed one 1975D that didn't look like the rest. The detail was sharper, the color richer, the condition almost untouched. Under magnification, the differences were undeniable. This wasn't just a penny. This was a miracle of survival, a coin that somehow avoided the wear and scratches that doomed all the others. It was, in short, a time capsule, and when it hit the auction block, jaws dropped. Bidding started modestly, but within minutes, collectors were battling fiercely. The price climbed higher and higher, past thousands, then tens of thousands, and finally into the realm no one expected. By the end of the night, this tiny 1-cent piece had sold for an unbelievable $1.10 million. Most people still don't know what makes these 1975D pennies so special. You see, the Denver Mint produced over 4.5 billion pennies that year. Almost all of them are worth face value. But the rare survivors, the ones in pristine condition, can be worth a fortune. And then there are the elusive errors, doubled dies, off-center strikes, and other mistakes that collectors hunt like buried treasure. One overlooked detail, and you might be holding a penny that could change your life. Collectors were shocked when word spread. Dealers rushed to find high-grade examples, searching through rolls, jars, and even old piggy banks. Stories began to circulate. A man in Texas pulling one from a parking lot, a teenager in California spotting one in her dad's change drawer. Each new discovery sent ripples through the coin community. Could the next $1 million penny be hiding in plain sight? But the real key is condition. Most pennies from 1975 have been scratched, dulled, or corroded by decades of use. The $1 million examples are flawless, what collectors call mint state. Their details are razor sharp, Lincoln's hair perfectly defined, the lettering crisp and clean, the shine still as bright as the day it was struck. Many people have owned these coins without ever realizing it. A rare 1975D penny could have passed through your hands in a grocery store, sat in a coin jar, or slipped behind a couch cushion. One small oversight, and $1 million could be gone forever. But what makes this story unforgettable is how it changes the way we look at money itself. For most people, a penny is worthless. Something to ignore, or even throw away. But for a lucky few, that same penny becomes the symbol of hope, of chance, of possibility. Every time you hold one, you're holding the possibility of a life-changing treasure. 1975 with the D mint mark just below the year. Second, look at the condition. If it looks almost brand new, without scratches or discoloration, it could be worth grading. And third, watch for errors, doubling in the letters, an off-center strike, or anything unusual. Those tiny imperfections are what turn ordinary coins into legends. Collectors are still hunting, and the market remains fierce. Even lower-grade examples can bring in hundreds, sometimes thousands, depending on the demand. But the flawless, near-perfect coins, those are the ones that cross into the $1 million range. So next time you dump out that jar of pennies, pause for a second. Look closer. Because hidden among the dull copper and worn edges, there might be one that shines just a little brighter. And that one coin could change everything. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.